There are several things that you would like to get from this thing and from this presentation. And it is my job to do that. I was asked by the institution to give them what my topic would be by, and then present my description of what I want to do, and then I wanted to list the goals and objectives. Now this is pretty heavy business stuff here now. So what we are talking about here now is type 2 diabetes for the over 45-year-old. And since none of you ring that bell, I guess we can just call it quits now and go out and get us a glass of wine and do whatever we do. Do some of that good dancing that they were doing. I like to learn that salsa. Okay, my description is simply this: effects of diabetes uncontrolled. You and diabetes management. The emphasis will be on you. In past years, we had a physician in there taking care of you, but as time has changed and the country is changing and the uncertainty of health care, then you are going to have to take charge of yourself more now than ever before. So I'm going to count on you and get the instructions that we have, find someone, if you can find a doctor, and avoid the political system as much as you can, the elected political officers. The second one is diet and exercise and management of diabetes, you and your physician. And what I would like for you to know out of this, there's going to be some very, very simple goals. You need to know when you leave here what diabetes is. Now, by this evening meal, you can forget it. The group out front is going to have some papers that's going to have the instructions on it, on the things that you choose. And I chose two very, very simple things for you. One of them is going to be a paper called Diabetic Myths, and the other one is Diabetes and You. And all that you'll have is just those two pages. And it's printed big in case some of you are over 45 like I am, and you have to see it. And then the last things are to understand why diabetes control is important and things to do and if you understand diabetes. I could have used a bunch of methods, but in my, I'm 42 years old, not quite as old as you guys are supposed to be, and even though I graduated high school in 65, there's some math problems in that end, and I didn't do good with that. We'll let that go. That wasn't 50 years ago, and I know it. But anyway, the main thing is to know you're in control of yourself, what diabetes is, and the importance of diabetes. And any presentation that I made, and the only teaching experience I really had was teaching medical students. And they were just like you guys are, interested in knowing about themselves. Now, at your age, if you're maybe 40 years old, if you don't have diabetes, you have someone in your family that you know may have had it. Then I'll tell you something about the history of diabetes, and I can look at you and tell most of you that you certainly may be subject to that history, because it has a propensity in people who come from the Asian Pacific area. Secondly, would be Native Americans. Third would be Black Americans, and then Hispanics. You have more of a propensity for developing diabetes than others. Sometimes you'll know that. And so I don't have to tell you that anymore. You'll know that when you look in the mirror in the morning, like I look in the mirror, I just see that good-looking black guy. I know that I got a propensity for that. There he is back there. See, we can put him on out of here. He's going to with the Russians. We'll get him on out of here right away. We're not going to rough him up and just open the door and let him run out. But the main thing, I want this to be an interactive situation. But what I'm going to start off is I'm going to ask if there are any of you who have questions about diabetes. Then we'll address some of those questions. Then I'm going to cover these 4 little things that I have. And then we'll try to make this thing an interactive. Are there any questions about diabetes at all from anyone here?
I have one.
Okay.
I want to ask you a question about, can you be borderline diabetic or you either have it or you don't?
Do you want an opinion or do you want the truth?
I want both of them.
Okay. And see, now this is a smart lady. You're not in politics. I'm going to give you both. The truth is this. Either you have diabetes or you don't. Now that's this way. Either you're pregnant or you're not. You see, that's just the way it is. You know, and I can tell you that there are some ambiguities that go around here and we flam around. But either you have diabetes. And those other things are not that important. So if you don't have diabetes, then you don't have to worry about it. Unless you're black, Pacific Asian, Hispanic, or Native American. Do you see? So then that puts you in the propensity for it. And why is it important that you know about it? Diabetes shortens your lifespan, those with diabetes, by as much as 10 years if unmanaged and uncontrolled. There are some things that you need to know about diabetes. Nobody knows why you have it, why you're blessed to have it, but we know where to find it. So I can look in this room here, and I'll guarantee you that if I pick up the news, pick up the paper, that there's someone, and some of the families in here got diabetes. And if you don't have diabetes, I would like for you to tell your family members about the importance of diabetes. The next thing I want to say to you is diabetes is a very, very serious condition. What is diabetes? One of the questions that I wanted to cover. And then I'm going to ask you if you have some questions. Diabetes is the inability of your body to handle glucose. It is a metabolic illness. We don't know the cause, but we know what happens with it. Diabetes has been called a protein manifestation disease. And protein is a kind of an interesting word. It means that it can present itself in any way, from just feeling tired, having to urinate all the time. Then it can also make you not sleep. You can have kidney malfunctions. You can have pain in your hands and extremities, some of the neuropathies for that. So it can come at you in any way. So when you get to be Black, Asian Pacific, Hispanic, you need to know that these are things that you need to put in your list. Margaret, you have no, that's how you, how do you pronounce your name? Margaret.
I always hear about diabetes 2. Is there the diabetes 1 and 3 and 4 and 5?
There's a diabetes 1, a different bird from diabetes 2. Very, very important question. Diabetes 1, type 1 diabetes, what we used to call juvenile onset, has to do with people who don't make insulin. These people are born not making insulin. Type 2 diabetes is a different actor. Type 2 diabetes is a person that has insulin that don't work, or they make insulin that, too much insulin. You had another question for that?
They told me I have diabetes 2, but I had never taken insulin. They didn't tell me to take.
Okay, well that would be left up to the doctor. Now let me just tell you something, or whoever's taking care of it. And what is important about diabetes is that there are several things that are important about it. Number one, if you have diabetes, you're just going to die earlier than those who don't have diabetes. And ain't nothing I can do about that. And ain't nothing you can do about it, but you can do something about the time you have while you're living. You can do good things, enjoy yourself, eat right, and we'll talk about those things as we go. Now, every person with diabetes is an individual thing. Question in the reading.
Is hypoglycemic a form of diabetes?
It's a metabolic disease, and it's not considered diabetes, but it's a form like you can't control your glucose on the high side with diabetes. With hypoglycemia, you cannot use you use it more than you should. So it's not something that you consider, but they're treated completely differently. One of them, you stay with hypoglycemia, you stay away from sweet things, and with hyperglycemia, you stay away from sweet thing. That don't sound like that makes sense, does it? But it makes a lot of sense, because concentrated sugars are a thing that's bad for either one of them. It'll give you a sugar fix. So, you know, if you just want to feel good, you just eat your little piece of candy with hypoglycemia, you'll feel good. But then you'll need to keep doing it. Have you ever heard that story? You give a man a fish today, you'll have to feed him tomorrow. Teach him how to fish, he can feed himself. So we can do the hypoglycemia with protein foods that'll make a difference.
Okay, the reason I asked that question, because that's what my doctor said, diagnosed me with, but they got me, I have to watch my diet, what they call a controlled diet, and watch my eating habits and everything. That's why I asked you.
That makes sense. I mean, and that's what I'm here. And I'm going to give you an answer that if you don't understand it, we may spend a little time out here with it. With hypoglycemia, you eat more frequent meals because your sugar dropped down. You avoid eating sugar because sugar is easy digestible and you'll use it up. So you'll eat things like cheese, peanuts, peanut butter, proteins, and meat.
Okay.
Where with hyperglycemia, you want to avoid, especially the concentrated sweets, just like you do the other. And the idea is to keep you in balance. You know, ain't nothing like a balanced person. So now there's a person in America who you all might know. He may say one thing today, and he may change that tomorrow. So there's a problem there. Now what that problem is, I can't tell you. But you know, you need to have a balance. So make no difference, whatever your position is, you need to have a balance. So now let me just tell you something. So we know where we are and what we need to do. Now let me tell you about the effects of untreated diabetes. The effects of untreated diabetes will lead to heart attack, stroke, kidney failure, and balance issues, what we call a neuropathy. All of those lead to an early death. And until the last 10 years, we've made some real improvements in that by adding diet and exercise to our regimens. And believe it or not, exercise is one of the most important things that we can do. Exercise helps you live longer, live better, frees your mind up, probably than anything free that you can do. And I'm not talking about doing like I'm doing, running your mouth. That's not exercise. But I'm talking about spending a minimum of 150 hours a week. 150 hours. Did I say 150 hours a week? It scared you, didn't it? See, I noticed you're paying attention. You need 150 minutes of exercise a week. 150 minutes. So and that'll make a difference. So you spend all your time exercising. And I can tell you that it'll make a difference in how you feel. Now let me just tell you give you some personal things. 2 years ago, in 15, I had to have heart valve surgery. Before I had heart valve, I was weighing about 275 pounds. So they replaced my heart valve and they made a mistake. I told them that I wanted a bovine valve from a bull. And when I got up and found out that I wanted to just say moo, moo, they had put a cow valve in me, but it was from a bovine. So I mean, I feel pretty good about it. So, you know, I mean, and does that mean that I'm bisexual? Does it mean anything? It mean I got a cow valve in me and I want to moo every now and then. That's all that it means. I want to moo every now and then, you know, and especially whenever I hear some music. But anyway, it makes me want to moo moo and make me want to woo woo. We were entertained today by the dancers who did such a marvelous job. But the effects of diabetes in your eyes, not only do you go blind, but it causes people to have early cataracts. And a cataract is a growth that can happen on your lens and it can happen on your cornea. The cornea can be treated because we get cornea transplants. The lens can be treated because we take them out. But if you get both of them in one eye, you got some trouble. So if you get your lens replaced and you get a corneal transplant, then the second time, the third time you have eye surgery, you you get an increase in chance of increased pressure in your eye, something that you may call glaucoma. And then you're going to lose your sight eventually with that. So diabetes is serious. And you have a propensity. When you look in that mirror and you see a pigmented person, Hispanic, American, Native American, black, you know you have these propensities. So there are some things that are important that can be just as bad as diabetes, but are not. Now, you know, someone asked about pre-diabetes back there just a few minutes ago. Is there such a thing? Borderline diabetes. And I don't have no problem with the term, but in reality, this is your right hand. See, is this your right hand? This is my right hand. Any way you put it, this is going to still be my right hand, and this is going to be my left hand. So either you do or you don't have it. But there are some things that you need to know about if you're Asian, specifically Asian. One of them is a syndrome called metabolic syndrome. The metabolic syndrome is one that causes people to have as severe a premature effects as diabetes itself. And those premature effects that you get would be diabetes, which causes you to have all of those other conditions, early heart attack, and early stroke. And the metabolic syndrome is very easily diagnosed. There are several things that help with the diagnosis. One of them is if you're a female and your waist size is over 35 inches. That's one of them. If you're male and your waist size is over 40 inches. If your blood pressure is elevated, it's another one. If you have what is called triglyceride elevations or sugar elevations, that can, in any three of those five put you in the category just like having diabetes. So there's a lot of things that we have to watch. It's just like if you are driving a car. In America, you drive on the right side of the center line. You can move to the left side. But if you're a pigmented person, you might get stopped for making that move. So I'm telling you that you need to look at yourself and be careful that you stay on the right side. Keep your waist size below 40 if you're a man, below 35 if you're a female. If your blood pressure is out of control, whatever your doctor says, you control that. And when you control many of these factors as you can, then you have a chance of living longer. And we know who has a propensity for developing diabetes, and we know that even if you have diabetes and it's very, very well controlled, there's a story that I'll relate to you. You guys may have heard about Jesus Christ, a guy who did nothing wrong. The story, you can find nothing that he did wrong. He was accused of doing something, he was tried and found innocent. And he was taken before the public, and they asked who do they want to keep, and they chose someone else instead of him. So even if you do everything well, if you have the metabolic syndrome and diabetes, you may get out of here a little bit sooner. And there ain't nothing I can do about that. But there's something that you can help with that, is if you exercise at 150 minutes a week, you'll have a chance of living longer and doing better. You can have the occasional glass of wine, eat you a little something sweet every now and then. You don't have to do it every time, twice a month, that's fine. Eat plenty raw vegetables and fruit. It just will help you to do what you need to do. So we need to know, we know right now, we can look in the mirror. You don't need no doctor to tell you this here. One thing you know, and the way the situation is in America now, health care and finding doctors is getting to be at a premium. It costs a lot of money because there are not many of us. Now, if you look in the state of Missouri, now this is seeming kind of crazy, but practicing medicine in the state of Missouri, there are less than 300 black doctors. So if you have a tendency to want to go find you a black doctor, you might have a problem in the state of Missouri. See, that may be a problem. If you look at all minority doctors, including Native Americans and Hispanic, you may be looking at 4%. So that means out of every 96 doctors you see, only 4 of them will have pigment. Now, that doesn't mean that the other doctors can't take care of you. It means that you need to start doing and looking and understanding. And if you have an issue, you need to take your health care into your hands. There was a gentleman who invented the Model T Ford named Henry Ford. He said, if someone tell you you can't, you won't. If someone tell you that you can, and you will. You need to take your health care into your hands. Whatever parameters that you feel that you need to know. You know about the metabolic syndrome now. You know if there's diabetes in your family. If you don't have it, if you look at those things and you fit in those categories of people that you just mentioned, you need to mention it to your grandkids, your kids, and let them know. And you don't have to wait for the doctor to tell you. You say, listen, I need to control this. You know, my waist size is more than 40. I need to do something about that. And if I can do this, and I can make myself feel better by exercising 150 minutes a week, we'll do that. Anybody follow me? Anybody have any questions like that? Yes, ma'am.
Is diabetes reversible?
Well, now let me just tell you what I want to know. You know, this is not truth and consequences here. You know, I'm not going to sit there and tell you a lie. I'm not going to say something today and change it tomorrow. If you got diabetes, you're going to die with diabetes. Okay? That's just the way it is. You're going to die with diabetes. Now, diabetes may not kill you, but if you have diabetes and you get to be 70 years old, some of the side effects of diabetes you're going to have. You're going to develop some cataract. You're going to develop some retinopathy. Retinopathy is one of the serious things that lead to diabetic blindness. Now, cataracts can lead to blindness, but diabetes, when the sugar is elevated, it causes what we call neovascularization. That means new vessels develop in your eye, and then sometimes you can bleed in them and you can get a retinal detachment. Now, I happen to know about that because it happened to me, and I was blind in my eye for about a year and a half. But anyway, and I couldn't see good out of my other eye because I had diabetes and that didn't understand. I've had diabetes for 40 years. So I had to retire from practicing medicine because I couldn't read EKGs, I couldn't do those things. So that's what happened to you when it happens. It's very, very important if there's diabetes in your family. Now, all of these things that I've talked about, there's another thing that's very, very important. If in your family they had all types of maladies and they enjoyed longevity, they live far beyond. That is one of the best predictors of how you'll live, but that doesn't say anything about quality of life. Right. The quality of life depends on you. Right. You'll have to be responsible for that. Don't let no doctor tell you to do anything that you don't want to do, and then you got to be responsible for what you do. There's an old saying: you don't always get what you pay for, but you're certainly going to pay for what you get. And that's what it is. If you pay a dime for something, you're going to get a dime's worth of it. And that's what it is. If you find someone who want to give you 8 cents worth, that's the facts of that happening. How we doing? Is everybody doing okay? Yeah. Everybody got diabetes here, feel that they understand the main thing that we got to do. That question. Yes, ma'am.
I want to know, how many classes or how much exercise do you have to do to get 150 hours?
Not 150. That was one of my bad jokes. 150 minutes. That is 2 hours and a half in a week. In 1 week.
Oh, wow.
22 minutes a day. Now let me just say something. Boy, that's a simple price to pay. I mean, that's something that'll make you feel. It makes no difference what your condition is. If you do 150 minutes of exercise a week. Now that doesn't include running mouth. That don't count. Running mouth doesn't count.
Dancing, exercise, anything like that, right?
Walking is one of the most simple exercises, even if you have arthritis. And then I'm going to encourage you to look at some of these, and I took a chance to look at them because this group that's presenting this for you, doing an amazing job. They have some one-page things out there about arthritis and exercise, hip injuries and exercise, diabetes and exercise. And it's simple information. big print too, in case you got problems seeing like I have. You know, and then you can always get your grandkids to read it to you. You know, and that's the way that'll go. But do that and pay attention to them. And that's what you'll do. You'll live longer by taking care of yourself. No one in you, this is something my father used to tell me. And I didn't like to go to church. I'm gonna tell you, this is important. I didn't like to go to church. And if you didn't go to church in my house, there were consequences. Now, it didn't make no difference about it. And what Daddy used to say, do you think that it's gonna hurt you to go to church? And the answer would be no. He said, well, if it don't hurt, there's a chance that you might get some benefit out of it. Yeah. So when you're doing some exercise for yourself, there's not a chance. We know that you're gonna get some benefits out of it. Yeah.
I just wanted you to repeat that saying, use them that.
Okay, here it is right here. You don't always get what you pay for, but you're certainly gonna pay for what you get. Now let me just tell you who that came from. Okay, she wanted to know where did I get that saying from. And it came from an ex-slave, a former slave, and we'll call him Frederick Douglass. But that wasn't his name, because he knew his name. But he said the same thing, is that simply this here, you know, someone is always here to take you. And there was a harmonica player named Lil Walter, and he was a sure enough player. He could blow that harmonica. And he said this, it ain't nobody who ever picked up a harmonica who can't be cut. Now those of you who like music, cut means can't be out there. So I mean, anybody make no difference. How good looking you are, somebody looks better than you. How smart you are. And let me just give you another good one. It's what you learn after you know everything that really counts. After you know everything about everything, what you learn then is what's going to benefit you more. That was another question that I saw a hand. Yes, sir. No, let me get the lady. Yes, ma'am.
The doctor told my husband that he could get off of the shots if he get his diabetes down under 200. Can you get off of them shots?
Let me just share with you. I used to weigh 275 pounds about 2 years ago before I had my heart surgery. I was taking 140 to 160 units of insulin a day. And I now take 60 units of insulin a day. So you can do better. Now for me to tell you that you can, I can certainly say that he can reduce the amount of insulin that he has to take by getting his weight in control, by eating properly, and by his physical activity. He can. But for me to sit here and to say something would be something that's kind of out of my hand. And you know, that may be some of you here that may be Christians and believe in that life hereafter. And I don't have no problem with that. I practice medicine. And I've seen people come into the world and take their first breath. And I've seen too many of them take their last breath. And I've never seen anyone come back. I lost a son. And if you walk in that door right now, then I'm going right out of this one. So I want you to know that. There's some things I don't know about, but there's some things that I got some issues with. And then you know the story about Lazarus and raised from the dead. I don't necessarily believe he was dead. You see, there are people that we know of that have been in comas for months, and they come to. And so they tell the story that he was dead and he came alive. But I will tell you this, enjoy life every day. Listen to this. The worst thing that any one of you can do is to die before you're dead. Trust me. That's one of the worst things that you can do. Yes, ma'am.
My pharmacist said that I'm not a diabetic. My doctor said I am. She says 2 medications that I'm taking is making me feel diabetic. And she said that I'm not going to tell you which 2 it is, Shirley, because since my husband passed, there ain't nobody at home but you. And something might happen. And he said if it ever get up to 200, but it don't. It'd be 98, 99, stuff like that. That's all I'll be. She said you ain't no diabetic, Shirley. I said, but I ain't going to tell you which 2 medicines to stop taking because you need them.
Well, let me tell you something. Just like I said, this is my left hand and this is my right hand. Either you do have diabetes or you don't. The diagnosis of diabetes is made several ways. A fasting sugar of 8 hours above 112 on 2 occasions, separated by 3 to 4 days, makes you a diabetic by name. So that's one way of getting it done, okay? So you know that. There's a thing that's called a glucose tolerance test that no one do. And then there's one that they do in women who are pregnant, where they give them a small amount of sugar, and they check that sugar. And if your sugar gets above 150 at less than an hour, then that makes you a diabetic. But if you're pregnant, it makes you what's called a gestational diabetic, which in turn makes you more prone to develop diabetes in later life than not. So that's sort of another little thing that has nothing to do with it. I don't think that none of you guys plan on getting pregnant, you know, because, but anyway, in case you do, have elevated sugar during your pregnancy, that, you know, that child may have some issues, and then you may develop it when you get old enough to develop it. There was another question.
Do I, if, like, when I checked my sugar one day, and it was 120. Is that when it's like that high?
Let me just say something. See, that's what it makes a difference what time it is. Now let me just say this here.
Okay.
At no time should your sugar be over 200.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just telling you, at no time, after a meal, after nothing, should it be over 200. So that will put you, but that still won't make the diagnosis of diabetes unless you do the criteria for diabetes. Now listen, I'm gonna tell you a story here. I like to have a little levity whenever I say something. I had a friend, his name, we call him Catfish. And I had a brother we named Melvin. And Melvin told Catfish one day, he said, "Man, you ugly."
Talk a little louder.
He told Catfish, he said, "Man, you're ugly." And Catfish said, "Man, how do you know?" He told me, he said, "TJ, you go in the house and get a mirror and let him look at that mirror. So if you look at yourself and you don't see ugly, then you're not ugly. But if everybody else seeing ugly, you might have that mirror turned the wrong way." I want to help him because he looks like he's in collusion with them Russians. Be careful about this because they don't tell him where we might go on. They don't talk about it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What you eat during the PM, sometimes why does it make your sugar be high during AM, the early AM?
Okay, and that has to do with two things. Either the metabolic syndrome or either diabetes. I won't talk about pre-diabetes. It means that diabetes being a metabolic disease, you're not processing sugars very well. So you can prevent that by what you eat. So if you eat something like vegetable, carrots, celery, that won't raise your blood sugar. But if you eat something like potato chips, and you eat something like that dip of ice cream, your sugar may get that little bump in there. And it may make a difference. But if you add something like peanut butter, peanuts, or nuts, it won't cause your sugar to go as high. And believe it or not, the largest protein that is taken in and ingested by humans in the world come from beans. Now beans got some side effects, but beans is a good protein that won't cause you to get that elevated sugar. Like, you know, the things that are important is eating things that grow above the ground as opposed to growing those things that are in the ground. Yes, sir.
What's metabolic?
Metabolic. Good question. Metabolic. Oh, let me give you not a metaphor but an example. If there's a band and you'll hear someone singing, and you'll hear things, but then you hear someone beating the drum, then the drums put it into a rhythm. Metabolic means your ability to take simple sugars, convert them to a sugar that you can use, because every cell in the body, especially the brains, use them. And the metabolic system in man consists of the endocrine system, which is that of all of the organs that, just like your heart, got blood that's going to it. The pancreas doesn't have, but it secretes stuff into the blood that makes you go. And inside your body, for everything that happens, there's a reaction. and that's what we call metabolism. And metabolism not only happens in you, it happens in plants. We call it photosynthesis, where they take light and kind of convert it back through their way to making food. And they end up being a sugar too. And therefore it's a real sugar in plants that we eat. But you know, sometimes humans can't digest them because it's cellulose. But it's just how you use what you take. That's what metabolic means. And that's a kind of a simple metaphoric example.
How you use sugar?
Yes. Yes. And you know, and how you not only that, not only sugar, how you digest proteins, and you can have a problem with that. This is a powerful question that you just asked. We had a lady who said, right where she said, or maybe just behind him this morning, she said that she was eating vegetables, and she was told that vegetables would help her every kind of way, but she couldn't. So she went to the doctor and they did a test on her, and they found out that she had something called A. pylori. A. pylori is an organism that gets lodged in the distal part of your stomach called duodenum. And it helps you in your digestive juices. And when you get this organism in it, it keeps that from working properly. Now, a classic example is that if you eat something, and a normal person will eat something, and when he has a bowel movement, it has a formed bowel movement. But you let something happen in that bowel, and you'll either get diarrhea or you'll get constipation. There's a metabolic, a problem in metabolizing, getting stuff through you. And so that's what happened. This lady was saying what happened out there. She solved her problem by, I think she said she went to a nutritionist, and the nutritionist said, if you can't eat the green vegetables, she did, I don't know, what do you call these things that you get them like not slurpees, but you put it in the food processor and drink them? Smoothies, that's right. And so she started doing it that way. And she did very well with them, and she made them so that they were tasty for her. And she added them to them. And so, you mean, there are different ways to skin a cat. Like, you know what I mean? We can do things like, either you can walk right, left, or you can go left, right. Same thing accomplished, but how you start and how you do it. Excellent question, very. I hope that I did it justice. I may not have done that. There's a thing that when we were in medical school and before medical school called Krebs cycle, K-R-E-B. Now listen, that was almost my nemesis like physics. Had I had to go through physics 2 more days, I wouldn't have been a doctor, because I would have flunked it for sure. That Krebs cycle, they ask you about everything. And so you had to learn how energy is produced. So you take so many calories in something, it goes through Krebs cycle, and you had to do that. You had to do that from memory. But a lot happens in medicine that way. And the one thing, the beautiful thing about the practice of medicine is that people, you may not remember their faces, but if you see some symptoms, you'll always do. And I tell you, there ain't nothing like seeing someone get burned to a crisp. The sight, the sound, and the smell is with me now, having dealt with that now, and I can just remember that forever. I've seen kids come in who had drug overdose. And I think that you've had some problems. And it's something that my wife used to talk about me, because when I came home and the kid came into the emergency room overdose, I yelled at my kids. Because I said, listen, I'll kill you before you let that stuff do it. And I meant that too. But anyway, that don't mean I was right about it. But that meant that when I told them I would do, my wife wouldn't let me do that either, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. Are there any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we got Equal, cellulose, Splenda, and I call it the pink sugar. All of them. Which one is better? And the reason I'm asking is because, like, some of the sugar-free syrups I can use, and it will raise my blood sugar higher than the regular syrups. And after I turned 60, I became allergic to so many things that the doctor told I have to carry an EpiPen now because I'm just a trial and error thing. That's how it is.
Got a lot of allergies.
Yeah.
Now let me just so that you'll know this here. It is not the sweetness that's making your sugars go up.
Okay.
it's something else. See, it's something else that's making. Now it may be making your pancreas not work, or maybe making something like that happen. Because there are those who said that if you're going to use any of the sweeteners, there's one I think that's called stevia, or something, that it comes from a natural source. It may be better for you. Or either the plain unbleached sugar. Think of it. You can have sugar when you're diabetic because it's the source of life. It makes your body go. Without sugar, you don't think. So we can look at some of our politicians. Need some sugar. You see? Because we're figuring that they may not be thinking properly. And that's my medical diagnosis on this thing. You know? But anyway, that's all. Yes, ma'am.
Now, for me being a diabetic, to bring down my sugar and to keep my sugar at a normal level, I take cinnamon tablets, and I cook with cinnamon.
I can't tell you anything, but let me just tell you something about the Native Americans. The Native Americans used a lot of cinnamon, and they also used a lot of, no, this is a yellow spice.
Turmeric.
Yes.
Turmeric.
And you know, let me just tell you something. Now, what I find better and more enjoyable is just a plain glass of wine. Now, let me just tell you something. If I drink a plain glass of wine, I may not do nothing for my metabolism, but it makes me get spiritual and I feel better. You see, so I'm not saying that it don't work for you, but I'm saying that there's not been any evidence, but I'm saying these things here too. 70 years ago, we didn't have no doctors that could tell nobody to do anything. You know, my mother used to make an acidity bag and put it on me, rub me down with grease, you know what I mean, put Vicks on me all that night, and you took aspirin, it didn't make no difference as soon as you could get it in your body. Aspirin when it came out. Now some of you guys don't remember, it was BC and stand back. So some of you are over 25 years old. Because that's the way it used to be. And then you should take that, and if you got really sick, you put a drop of camphor on it, and then you take that, and you didn't get sick, or you didn't let your parents know you were sick, because that didn't change nothing. You see, made you feel better. And I don't know if it did anything, but there were things that made a difference. And there were people that danced and hovered over you, and put their hands on you, and made you feel better. I can't tell you about that. But anyway, if it makes you feel better, but I personally, like a good white wine. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what about the vinegar with mother?
I can't say anything about it, but there's some things that I can tell you this here that deal with absorption and stuff. And it's known this here for medicines, like, you know, citric acid from eating grapefruits and stuff like that. It has some effect on how you absorb stuff. It's just like that A. pyloric that you get when you get a bacteria in there. I can't tell you how good it is, but I can tell you this here, one thing for sure. If you put in less than you burn up, you're going to blow up. Simple as that. So if you put in less and you burn what you put in, you'll stay steady. If you have a glass of wine, you do that 150 minutes of exercise, you'll be spiritually feeling better. I mean, it's just according to what you want to. You know, it can be sweet enough. But you know, as long as it's 10%, it's okay. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to know if this is true or false. Last year, my 10-year-old granddaughter came home from school. They live in Texas, and she brought a note home, which told my daughter that the school nurse had said that looking at her neck shows that she's predisposed to diabetes. Is that a...
Let me just tell you something, ma'am. There are a lot of things that I don't know about, and I'm not going to claim that I'm that smart, and I'm not going to say that it is. But let me just tell you something. It's just like if you want to look in a horse's mouth and tell how much he can pull. You see? I mean, there are people who swear they can do that. You can tell how many teeth bad by looking at his mouth. After all done it, you tell that on a cow. And they used to do that on slaves too. Looking at they got bad teeth, you just ain't gonna do good. And if you got bad dentition, your health is not gonna be. So that's that thing. Everything that you do,
Bad what?
teeth, dentition.
Oh, bad teeth.
It's just not healthy for you. I've not seen it, ma'am. And I've not seen, and let me just tell you something, I've seen people put their hands on people who was hurting and walked in the doctor's office like this, and they walked out like this, happy. But I can see that same thing happening if they had 2 glasses of wine. They do the same thing. I've seen the same people do that too. Here's what you do. Doesn't make a difference. This is another powerful question that she just asked. She said, what sugar does it make a difference? Type 2, a level 2 diabetes, is something that starts as an adult. Anytime that your sugar is elevated and you're over 40 years old, you have type 2 diabetes. It doesn't make any difference. Just if your sugar, if 112 is the criteria, then you have diabetes. If it's 100, over 112 on 2 separate occasions by 3 days, you have type 2 diabetes. And so that is the time that when you first find out about it is to take care of it, do what you need to do about it. So it doesn't make any difference. Do I have a little bit of diabetes? Don't know. Don't know. But if you got diabetes, family history of diabetes, you're prone to have it. If you happen to be Hispanic, African American, Pacific American, you got a good chance of getting it. Yes, ma'am.
I got a niece live in Kentucky, and my niece is my great niece, and her grandma was keeping her. And she said she was walking around looking all funny in the eyes. And she told her husband, "We gotta take her to the hospital," and they did. When they got to the hospital, her sugar was almost 800. She was 2 years old, so they put her in a plane over in Kentucky. They fly to Louisville in a jet plane. They don't do helicopter, and she got to take 3 shots a day. A 2-year-old got to take 3 shots a day.
Now let me tell you something. It doesn't make a difference how many shots you have to make. It makes a difference about the level of control. They got things now that people take 1 shot a week. Now, not on those kids, but they put a needle in them and this measures their sugar and give them a little bit of insulin all of the time as they need it. Now she has type 1 diabetes. That'll kill you. Type 2 diabetes will kill you sooner than you will not having type 2 diabetes. You're gonna die, you leaving this world. Ain't nobody ain't gonna go to no doctor and gonna get out of here alive. Not a one of us. I'm guaranteeing that. If your sugar's a little high and you've had your glass of wine, you will be spirited when you leave. And you got some singing, you'll have a good breath. So it's just how you want to go makes a difference. Yes, sir.
You don't mention wine so much. Give me a good brand so I know what to get.
Wait just a minute. Listen to this here. Any brand that's got a greater than 9% alcohol content, it don't make no difference. Now let me just say something. Now I'm not sitting here promoting anything, but what I'm trying to tell you, be happy. And let me just say something. Live your life. Get someone to give you some instructions on where you go. Now, if you're not married, you get married, get a woman, they're going to give you some instructions. I'm not saying that they all go to be. And you being you, one of them old Russians, saying that you're going to be one that's going to be in collusion to not do what they have something to do. But anyway, all of what I'm trying to say, it's not about wine. You know, you can do it with a Bud Light, you can do it with a Miller's Light, whatever it takes. You know, if you're from Mississippi, like, I got some cousins that make that good stuff, man. Make that time, man, if you burn the string in it, the string will stay white. That's some good whiskey. Yes.
When I began pouring the tank and started up.
That's right. Are there any more questions? But let me just say something. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I have a friend that has,
What? I'm like doctor.
Stage 4 pancreas cancer, which is spread to the liver. And he's taking, since shots that he had, he's taking 3 shots of, well, say 4 shots a day. One is, you're familiar with Lantus,
take 25 units of that in the morning, and then 3 times a day before his meal, he's taking Overall. Now, his sugars goes up and down, and the young lady said that her baby had 200. When we started out, his was 1,000. So we don't even know how he was walking around with it being that high. But it fluctuates. It fluctuates up and down. This couple of days ago, because he's on chemo as well. And his sugar went up to like 263. And I gave him a shot of Novolog, and it brings it down, but it brings it down a little bit slower. Now in the resting time at night, sometimes when you wake up in the morning, it's still like 162. And so it just fluctuates, it just bounces all over the chart. So
let me just make some comments. And you know, after having practiced and been in medicine for more than 40 years, your friend has a serious condition.
very serious.
And he's not going to survive it. Just let me tell you that. And you ought to make him as happy as he can be. Let me just tell you. Now, there is no known treatment for him. Whenever we was in medical, when I was in medical school some time ago, we were taught that there are two things that you worry about: pancreatic cancer and esophageal cancer. 98% of the people, after the time of diagnosis, are not with us 6 months. Now, Steve Jobs, who was the guy who did Microsoft, stayed around, Apple or whatever, he did them computers, he stayed around longer than anything. But what a serious illness. And I mean, you should be comforting and loving and caring and doing all you can in that case. And you know, and as far as I'm concerned, you know, I would just keep his sugars under 200 if I could, and let him enjoy life. To the fullest extent. Yes, ma'am.
So if you're, in my particular position, I don't have diabetes. There are people throughout my entire family that have diabetes. When I'm talking to healthcare professionals, I just came to this area, so I'm actually getting like a clean look at everything. And it's like, okay, your A1Cs have dropped, they were getting up there a little bit, they've dropped, you lose some more weight, that'll work for you and like that. But as I'm listening to you, that if people have hypoglycemia and they have hyperglycemia, they have other aspects of metabolic syndromes. So even to the fact that my mother, she developed her diabetes, she was 80 before she was diagnosed with diabetes, and weight or none of that other stuff has anything to do with it. It just, she developed it. So when I'm looking at how I'm going to maintain my health, where I have same age first cousins that are on insulin, I have people who aren't, you know, we have all that stuff there. What are the best suggestions for people who have family history of metabolic syndromes? They have not presented themselves. So, am I looking at the same things that you would say to the diabetic, which, you know, that's weight, that's exercise, that's mental health, enjoy your life? Is there anything that's you haven't added to that formula for people who haven't developed it, but it is prevalent in the family?
You've already answered your question in your presentation. So the thing that happens is you must be vigilant in what you do.
Oh, no, we drink wine. That's my option.
Okay, you need to do that. And then, you know, if your hemoglobin A1C is elevated, now elevated hemoglobin A1C is above, 12. No, above 6.
Yeah, it's
you know, if you're above 6.5.
No.
But anyway, you need to just watch it. It's just like, every day I look at the stuff, and this is one thing. One day I look different from the next day. Now, let me just tell you something, that's the way it's supposed to be. Everything must change. Nothing stays the same. So you're going to change. But do what you can to enjoy what you can, follow what you can, as much as you can, as long as you can. Because you ain't going to be here forever. That's the way it is. Are we getting close to time for supper? You gotta get that Russian. Make sure you let that Russian get on out here. I've enjoyed being with you guys. May you have a safe journey on the back. And thank the people who put this on because they're doing a marvelous job in educating us. Thank you.
With just King's, yeah, just